Hi. So I've had some therapists ask me about narcissism, right? Like this is a subject we definitely heard about in school, but it's not something that we often have spent a lot of time on unless we've gone to specific training around it. So a couple of basic things, right? In terms of understanding narcissism, you should understand that at first it's part of a spectrum, right? So there are just basic narcissistic traits, which we all have. We wouldn't be able to like get out of bed, face the world in the morning if we didn't have some level of feeling like we matter, we're important, we're good enough, right? Um, so there's narcissistic personality disorder next, right? Which is when you have more than enough of those traits, you have more than your fair share, right? And that's when you start to see issues with relationships and really significant challenges and things like that. Then there's antisocial personality disorder, which is where psychopathy, Machiavellianism, sociopathy would fall under, right? But the actual diagnosis would be antisocial personality disorder. So that's key first, remembering it's a spectrum from just some traits, which we all have, to, you know, all the way down to antisocial personality disorder, which is, someone who can, you know, really not value life, right? So those are like our mass murderers usually, right? Okay, so again, we all have some narcissistic traits. I have them, you have them. It's how I can turn on this camera and feel like, okay, I can actually do this. Show up at a job every day, that sort of thing. You have to feel some sense of value and some sense that you can do and that you're capable in order to survive in the world. Too many becomes narcissistic personality disorder. You have way more of those traits than you need. And narcissistic personality disorder, or those excess traits, come from a couple of different places, right? They develop from childhood neglect, or neglect and then overindulgence, right? So basically, when you have a child who's has a parent who doesn't pay enough attention to them for any variety of reasons, right? It could be that the parent was working two jobs to make ends meet. It could be that the parent was sick and had a health issue. It could be that one parent was in the military and often deployed, and the other parent was working or dealing with a health issue. It could be anything, or it could be cultural, right? We even know in some cultures, the idea of paying attention to a child and showing them too much love and empathy and understanding is going to spoil them. No, you can't overlove. You may overindulge, but you can't overlove a person. So when a child is in that sort of situation where the caregiving is not as consistent and as focused on the child's needs as it needs to be on a day-to-day basis, what happens is a lot of times the parent will pay attention, or the primary caregiver will pay a lot of attention when the child does something stellar, right? So, oh wow, you have gotten an all A's in school. Let's celebrate, right? You have won a trophy. You came in first place on the baseball team. Let's celebrate that, right? But those child's day-to-day emotions, the time that they're crying because a friend made fun of them, or they're feeling, like they look different from the other kids, or maybe they feel too skinny, too fat, too tall, too short, too many freckles, on and on. Skin's too dark, skin's too light. All the things that people deal with day to day. When that is not, when you are not able to hone in and say, hey, I see you, I hear you, I care about you, your feelings matter, that's a problem. So not being able to pay attention to that, causing them neglect for any variety of reasons, and then overindulging or indulging, noticing only when they do something stellar, that creates that narcissism. Why? Because they don't learn that they matter in those times where they're not shining. They don't learn to work through those feelings of inadequacy, of inferiority, of guilt, of worry the way that you would if you sat with a parent who talked with you about all of your deep feelings and all your not so great feelings on a regular basis. That has to be learned and taught. It's not just when you do something great you shine. No, I care about you all the time. Okay, so these people, when they show up in a therapy room, what do you see? Right, well, first, they usually don't show up in a therapy room unless a significant other, usually a partner, sometimes a court, is mandating them to come to therapy. Second, they may present really well, charming, friendly, funny, smart, great, or they may present as depressed, sad, worried, right? Um, Depending on what sort of narcissism they're dealing with. So people who have narcissistic personality disorder, there are a couple of different types. Two of the main types are grandiose narcissism and the vulnerable narcissism, right? So the grandiose narcissism shows up as big, boastful, happy, joyful, charming person, center of the world, center of the universe. The vulnerable narcissist shows up as sad, anxious, depressed, worried, nobody likes me. I've been mistreated repeatedly. This is all the sad stuff I'm going through. And we know we have to tease out what's true and what's not, and what's real and what's imagined. But at the end of the day, you see the same thing, the same client, the same person, someone with little to no empathy, lack of care for others, right? Someone who chooses partners, mates based on what they can get out of them, get out of a situation. A lot of times their self-esteem and their good feelings are based on who their partner is, right? So if their partner is really pretty, really smart, really successful, they feel good because they can say to their friends and family, look who I have. I'm with this person, I'm worthy, right? But then when they realize that person's actually just a human like everybody else with flaws, and that they don't look as pretty without their makeup, or that, or they gained, pregnancy weight, that sort of thing. And there are male and female narcissists for sure. It is more common for men to have this disorder, but there are plenty of female narcissists, and I have seen and worked with plenty of them. So please don't for a second think that it's only something that affects men. Okay. Next up, and if they're coming to you in a couples counseling session, they're the one who loved, charmed. In the beginning, they love bombed this partner. They did everything to show them their love and their compassion and their devotion to them. They, paid attention to them. They probably called way more than is appropriate for early dating. They probably wanted to rush them into sex, rush them into marriage, rush them into living together, that sort of thing. Those are things that the narcissist commonly does, that they make sure that they win over their prey, right? Their person who they're gonna be able to suck from. And then again, what happens? So that's called love bombing. Okay, let's just put that term out there. Love bombing, excessive show of love and attachment in the beginning that's not appropriate for where you are, the stage of dating. A lot of times, men or women feel swept off their feet, wrapped up in love, so amazed that this could be happening to them. Step two, after they're love bombed, they're mirrored. So all the while this person has been being love bombed, the narcissist is also paying attention to their emotional reactions, what they care about, what they don't care about, and actually literally mirroring them so that the person thinks, wow, I found my soulmate, right? No, they've actually just mirrored you. They've actually copied you to make you think that you found someone who's compatible with you, and they probably don't even care about any of the things that you do. After the mirroring and the love bombing, the narcissist usually, or, again, all the way through antisocial personality disorder, so these are also the things your psychopaths and sociopaths do, right? Once they get somewhere, they've done the love bombing, they've done the mirroring, you're engaged, pregnant, married, living together, something, they have some form of claim on you. That's when you start to slowly see things shift. They just don't seem as interested in their partner anymore. They may be, secretive, having an affair, lying, all sorts of things that their partner doesn't yet find out, but there's definitely a huge shift because the focus is no longer on the partner. The partner was eating that up. Who doesn't want to be told you're beautiful 500 times a day, right? But it changes. And slowly but surely, they start to devalue their partner, right? So love bombing is done, mirroring is done. They've gotten somewhere in the relationship. Now they're going to devalue their partner. They're looking at their partner as less than. Again, they're seeing their partner has actual human flaws like everyone else on the planet. They can't handle this sort of ugly muckiness, right? Like, no, I want you to wake up wearing those heels and that dress and, all sorts of things. No, it's not reality. We wake up, we stink, we need to take a shower. That's normal. That's life. You still love your partner anyway, right? So that shifts. And then slowly they start to usually emotionally abuse, financially abuse, manipulate, depending on the type of person they are and where they fall on that spectrum. This is when it goes from neglect to abuse or even, horrific abuse. So those are some of the basics about narcissistic personality disorder and that narcissism spectrum. So again, all the way from narcissistic traits to clear cut, psychopathy, which falls again under antisocial personality disorder in the DSM. And I'm going to go ahead and attach for clinicians, I'm going to go ahead and attach a PDF that talks a bit about it more. If you're working with a vulnerable population, right? If you're working with a BIPOC population, you need to know this stuff because it's also rooted in, the consistent mistreatment by society. When you're consistently mistreated by society, it gives you less ability to take care of yourself and your family. So there's more of this in BIPOC populations because of that, okay? So it's really important for us to know and watch, and then there's also even cultural components when we think about some of the different groups that we belong to. There's literally like family cultural components of like not paying attention to and all that good stuff. So I hope that was helpful to you. Take care.